I read 14 books in the month of January. Oh my gosh, that's basically one book every 2 days. So we're gonna talk about, sorry, I should have moved the stack so we're trying to do it in order. But I didn't, so now it's gonna move them. Okay, so up first, we have Network of Lies, the epic saga of Fox News, Donald Trump, and the Battle for America by Brian Stelter. This is kind of a sequel-ish to his book Hoax. Well, you don't need to have read Hoax to read this book. I just think that, like, if you're looking for a good book about sort of so the first book is sort of the inception of Fox to the 2020 election, and then this is sort of the 2020 election onward. Sapphire and Tucker Carlson. And I don't think you need to have read the first book to read this one. However, I think it helps sort of get a general idea of some of the stuff in this. Some of the more like contextual things for like the existence of Fox News is helpful to, I think, have. But I think this works well as a standalone, and I highly recommend it. I get 5 stars. Normally I don't talk about star ratings, but here we are. Next up, I read Girl at Dinner by Olivia Blake. This is my introduction to Olivia Blake. I really liked this. I know that some of her books may hit or miss for people, but I loved this. I really liked the themes it was discussing, even if I think at times it was feminism light for people who've never really thought about feminism, but like, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. I think we need more books to be like people's introduction to thinking about the patriarchy and how much it sucks. So next, I read Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, and I really liked this. I enjoyed this so much. It was the gothic vibes I wanted, and it was interesting seeing a lot of the tropes that I love in the gothic genre sort of play out in here, because obviously this is one of the originators of those tropes, so it was delightful, and I am scared for the movie, I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, next I read The Librarians and the Mother Goose Chase by Greg Cox. This is the second of 3 tie-in novels to the TV show, and I think I like this more than the first one, which is crazy because I didn't think I would. Because this totally, so the first book feels like the movie and the TV show, the movies and the TV show, whereas this is fully the TV show in both timeline and vibe, and it reminded me a little bit of one of my favorite episodes of the TV show, which I think is why I enjoyed this as much as I did. But yeah, it was just fun. It was just fun. Next up, I read Harvest of Sighs by Sarah Simone. This is the 3rd book in the Thorn Chapel series, and this is probably my least favorite book in the series, but I still really did love this. I have 3 favorite characters, and they were definitely less prominent, and like they're not completely gone in this book. We're definitely focusing on other characters more in this book, which is why I like this book just a little bit less, but I enjoy it thoroughly. Then I read After Hours at Juilliard Books by Cat Sebastian. I love this, obviously. This book, I think, came out like such a perfect time. For like, and I think I read it at such a perfect time, because I started reading this in the middle of January as everything started to like start happening in Minneapolis. And I just, I think about the end paragraph of this book a lot. Outside these doors are chaos. Appalling men will be our elected president. Everyday headlines are worse, everyday headlines are worse than the last. All year it's been like that, and it isn't getting better. But it will. Meanwhile, there are donuts and pots of coffee and work to be done. Maybe not enough to tip the scales, but there anyway. Juilliard Books is here always. So is Nathaniel. So are all of them. And anyway, this book takes place in New York during the Vietnam War, and I just loved it so much. Then I did a reread of A Diary of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This is the fancy special edition that has a specific to it additional short story, but also has a short story from a different edition of the book. So that was nice and a nice treat. I also forgot just like how vastly different this book is from some of her other works. But yeah, this is one of my favorite books. So very happy to have reread it. Next, I finished the Thorn Chapel series, Doors and Bruises. I loved this. I loved this so much. Oh my gosh. And I can't talk about why I loved it without like spoiling the whole series. So I won't, but please note that I loved this. I ate it up. Then I read Hecate the Witch, which was my disappointment of the month. I went into this realizing that it was probably actually a novel in verse. And I've liked poetry collections from this author before. So I was like hopeful that I would still like a novel in verse from her, and unfortunately it just like didn't hit the way I wanted it to. And there were some changes that she made to the as an adaptation of the Greek myths that I just didn't care for. I think it was a valid decision to be made. I just didn't like it. So I actually don't even own my copy anymore because I ended up making an appointment at the end of the month to go sell some books to my bookstore. So that is no longer in my collection. Then I read The Hounding. I liked it a lot. I really liked the writing style. I love the fact that we don't actually like follow like other men in the town. We don't even follow like the girls that everyone thinks turns into hounds. But I did really like this. This was good. Then I picked up The Year of the Witching by Alex Henderson. And when I tell you that I wish that I had had this book when I was younger, because there are some themes in here that I really needed to like hear as a teenager, and then like early my 20s, being in Christianity, in a sect of Christianity that did not really, it was misogynistic, but then also like attacked me specifically for things. I'm not gonna get into it. It's we do be forever. But yeah, no, I really loved this. I bought House of Hunger by her as well, so I'm planning on reading that. I might get to it this month. We'll see how things go. But then I read Local Havens. This is a queer retelling of The Great Gatsby. It is every character, almost every character is bi. Not everyone. Tom being accepted. I also love the idea of making Nick Filipino. It was just delicious, and I loved it. And I loved the way that this reimagining, because it takes place in a futuristic society, written, with a modern lens, is really dealing with the prejudices of capitalism in all its messy glory. And this book was a delight, and I highly recommend it. Then I finally finished. Oh gosh, what series is this? Anyway, I read A Conjuring of Light by V. Schwab, finishing up this trilogy. And I think my ranking of the series is book 1, this one, and then book 2. But yeah, I enjoyed parts of this. I don't necessarily know that it needed to be 600 pages, but they went by fast. So these are not like slow reads. I devoured this in like 2 days. So there's that. And then my last book for the month was Laws of Depravity by Eric LaSalle. This is more of a like crime mystery than like a mystery. Because we know pretty early, like I want to say like we find out, like we start dealing with the killers pretty early on. So like we know who did it. We're just waiting for the cops to catch them, kind of thing. Do I think we need every character's POV? No. Was it refreshing to get POVs in a sort of murder mystery book that wasn't like just trying to keep me guessing as to who the killer was? Yes. But did I need it? No. Also, like, I understand that due to the nature of the crimes, religion was going to be a heavy theme in the book. However, almost every character being like Christian and like just having not necessarily conversations about God, but like definitely like sort of the way they view God is definitely like a theme in this book, was a bit much. But I did give this a 4. I am currently actually reading book 2 in the series, and my plan is to get caught up before book 4 in September. So actually my plan is to get caught up this month, and then read book 4 in September when it comes out. Although I will be getting it from the library, because apparently Source Books has decided that book 4 is coming out in hardback. And I have them all in paperback because that's how they came out. So, but yeah, that's everything that I read in January. I read 10 books in the month of February, and we're going to talk about them. So, first up, we have A Bad Law, 10 Popular Laws That Are Ruining America by Elie Mystal. I love this. I love Elie. Yeah, I love his writing. I also read his book, A La Mary Retort. This I think is really good, especially like if you I think he specifically says that this book's really great for him. And there's some things in here that I like didn't think about, or like, you know, and there's obviously ones that I did know in here. It's very good, very funny at times, pop culture hits. Little less pop culture in this first book, but again, I really like his writing style, so like it made sense. Okay, I'm gonna talk about these both at the same time actually. So because I can't talk about them too heavily without spoilers, I read the second and third books in the Mario Maker series. This is Laws of Wrath and Laws of Annihilation. Laws of Wrath is one of my favorite in the series. If we ignore the weird transphobia, although I will say this book series takes place in like 2000, in like the 2010s, so I can forgive it that. It's just weird that like, and this is a little spoilery, but like one of the characters like changing growth is acknowledging their siblings' preferred pronouns, and that kind of disappears in this book. Also, this is not the story I thought we were getting. If you would have asked me who I thought was gonna be the killer of this book, it was gonna be a different character. But apparently, we were just like teasing that. So I don't know. I don't know what's happening. I will be reading Laws of Solomon when it comes out. I gave this one 4.2 and then 4. This is probably the 3. I also gave the first one a 4. I don't know if I talked about that in my January book, but I now caught up on the Mario Maker series. I read Our Time Is Now by Stacey Abrams. This is a book about voter suppression and how voter laws seem to change this country, and it was really good and really solid, and once again, it makes me very grateful that I live in a state that does mail-in voting as its primary form of voting. So, next up, I read, yes, I guess this is the next one I finished. I read James by Percival Everett. Look, if you've heard about this book, you've heard nothing but praise, and I'm about to also praise this book. It was so good. And you don't need to have read Hellboy fan. I've never read it to get this book. And I think it's such a, there's a reason that this made so many best-of lists in 2025 and why it was nominated for the Booker and the National Award and won a Pulitzer. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Then I read Ring Shout. This is a fun horror romp. I don't know what to tell you. This is a fun horror romp in the sense of watching racists get what they deserve. I enjoyed this very much. And it's so inventive and creative, and I love the way it plays with some certain things that I was not expecting. So, highly recommend that. Then I read Fledgling by Octavia E. Butler, and once again, I wish that I loved this more. I feel like that's where I end up coming down with a lot of the 2 so far books I read by Octavia Butler, which is just that I wish that I loved it more. I think I gave this a 3.75. It was fine. I don't know. It didn't quite do it for me in a way that I can't fully explain. Although 3.75 like isn't bad. It's just, you know, for someone who loves vampire novels, I would have preferred to give it a higher rating. Speaking of the vampire books, I did give a higher rating to House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson. I loved this. This was so good. This was so delicious, and the vibes were immaculate. And I really liked this. And this is about there's these women. They're called blood maids. And basically, the wealthy just drink their blood. And I loved it. Then I read The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. This is my first introduction to James Baldwin's work. And I hate how relevant this nonfiction still feels. So yeah, if you've never read a James Baldwin book, I cannot recommend this enough. His writing is just superb. And then I read... Actually, I listened to an audiobook from the library, If I Could Go Back. This is a YA novel that I read because I needed a book with, oh gosh. This was for the Buzzword Reading Challenge, and I just needed to use the title prompt for a key. I went back as a key in the title is backspace, but like whatever. Somebody popped this into like the suggestions, and I was like, sure. It was fine. I think that, like, had I been younger, I would have loved this book more. I love the ways it deals with mental health. I love the ways it deals with complicated family dynamics. And I enjoyed it. It's like a technically good book. This just, like, wasn't for me as someone who is almost in their 30s. I think it really solidified for me that, like, contemporary young adult is just not for me anymore, and that's fine. And I hope that there is some teenager that reads this book and loves it and like is seen by it, because it was really well done. I just, again, it wasn't for me. And those are the 10 books that I read in February.